Give it a few for others who may just be joining us. So this evening's session is a part two of a conversation we had on Monday. So, Joni, how long have you been on Clubhouse for now?
So I've only been on here, I think, like a couple of weeks. So my little party hat only came off a little while ago. So,
yeah.
Most of the time I just kind of drop in rooms, kind of hear what's going on, especially things that are of interest that can help me move the needle in whatever the moment may be, or maybe it's for business. But yeah, so I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, same here. I'm fairly new, I would say. Same like yourself to, the whole Clubhouse movement. It's a good thing we have iPhones, right?
Yes, because there's some envy out there right now.
Right. There's some of that going on. So, so I'm excited to be here. I mean, I'm excited to share value, and I'll, for those who are, joining the room and perhaps don't know myself, tonight it's not about me, so I'm not going to dwell on, my accomplishments or anything I've ever done, but just a little background on why I'm even in this room. So in 2018, I started a social enterprise for women, and this came out of a need of me quitting my corporate job, and I started a consultant company. So in that process, I realized that the same, not maybe the same, a little different hurdles that I faced in corporate America, I was also noticing it in the entrepreneurship space, where, being one of the few women in my field. So I previously, before coming into the entrepreneurship space, I was a global director for supply chain management. And I worked pretty much with the big manufacturing guys in different industries. And I, for a while, loved what I did. And then after a while, it was just, okay, there has to be more. So when I decided, hey, I'm going to start my own consulting firm, and I'll still do what I did for corporations, but on my own, I quickly realized, I'm like, where are the women? Where are the women in the space I'm in, right? So that was a big eye opener. And then I started meeting more women. I'm like, oh, there are a lot of women in different businesses. However, I didn't see the collaboration. I didn't see, the networking the way I wanted to see it. Like, let's all win. Let's all build, let's build together. Let's share best practices. Let's close deals together. I mean, these are things it's normal. It's normalized in corporate, right? But I wasn't seeing that. I noticed a lot of like protecting of turfs. So for me, it was kind of like a little different and a little weird, because coming from a supply chain background, it was all about, outsourcing and collaborations and signing contracts. So to come into a space where a lot of people were like protecting information, not really trying to say, okay, these are my strengths, and here are some of my weaknesses. So why don't you, plug the gap for me for my weaknesses? So that kind of got me started on the whole meant for her. So I started the social enterprise, and, we do workshops, we do webinars, we coach women one-on-one. We do different things. We help them with their strategic planning, help them start the businesses, depending on where the woman is. So that's kind of my background, just for those who are coming into the room and trying to figure out, okay, who is this person talking? Because I think for me with Clubhouse, I want to form relationships with everyone who I'm interacting with. Like, who is Vanessa, Samu? What does she do? What is she all about? So I just started on Clubhouse, Joni, like you said, and this is my first week where I've said to myself, I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to every Mondays and Fridays, just share value. And the topic we picked for this Monday was getting unstuck. It's a topic that I think whether you're a man or a woman, everyone can relate to it. We've all been in that space where we felt stuck. We felt like, we couldn't move forward, whether it was resources or you name it. So tonight, this evening or night, depending on where you are, we are talking about how to get unstuck. And I'm just going to share my tips on how to get unstuck. And I'm coming from the perspective of just living it out as a woman in business with, wearing multiple hats as a mother, as an educator, because now I educate my kids. I decided last school year, actually, it's interesting. Before the COVID hit, I decided to start homeschooling my kids, which isn't really the norm for someone that has two startups and everything else that I do. However, I just really wanted to be hands-on on their education. So with that said, my plate is full, but I've gone through a process of feeling stuck and feeling like I couldn't move forward. But then, so bringing those experiences from life experiences, and then also my consulting background. So I'm a Six Sigma lean practitioner. So a lot of times when I get stuck, I will pull from my lean background where, hey, you have an issue. How do you overcome this? So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I open it up as we did on Monday. If you have a problem or you feel stuck in something, I will open it up. We can talk. People can give feedback. I will give feedback. So it's not about me. It's more about helping the community and helping people wherever I can. So let's get started. Let's jump in. Anyone wants to come on the stage, feel free. You want to ping other people in. A lot of people really enjoyed last session. The last session we had, a lot of people really enjoyed it. It was very beneficial. We got great feedback. So anyone who wants to join on the stage with me, so I can, you can ask a question, feel free, raise your hand, and we will get started. So on Monday, to get started, on Monday, we talked about getting unstuck. How do you get unstuck? And one of the biggest things I talked about was mindset. I believe it starts in the mind. It sounds cliche, but it is applicable. It doesn't matter what problem or issue you're having. It's applicable in different, different spheres, whether it's in your personal life or it's business or it's in your career. This is applicable. What you're going to be listening today is applicable. So mindset. What about your mindset? And I shared that, a lot of times it's the way we view a problem. It's the way we approach an issue. So instead of calling something a problem, something I learned in my lean consultant space is always call problems opportunities. And honestly, that has helped me tremendously whenever I felt stuck in anything. I've always treated an issue I've had as, okay, this is an opportunity for me to learn something new, or this is an opportunity for me to, maybe bring in someone else that has a better experience in this area. So it's all about how you look at the issue. So with that said, continuing in this conversation tonight, another thing is getting out of your way. And it comes in line with the whole mindset, getting out of your way, not overthinking things, right? I have a project I want to work on. I have a desire to start a company. I have a desire to start a family. I have a desire to become, the first in something. Whatever it is, right? I believe people who have achieved great dreams, it's not because they weren't afraid or they weren't, they didn't encounter challenges. It was just a matter of the way they saw the issue. They got out of their own way, right? So getting out of your own way is getting out of your mind, your thoughts that, hey, I can't do this, or I don't have what it takes. So I believe 80% of the issues of getting stuck is you. It's internal. And once you're able to overcome that part of, being stuck, things really start to move. So anyone who wants to get on stage, let me know, just ping. So getting out of your way, right? So you think of a problem as an opportunity, and then also stop overthinking. I believe a lot of people overanalyze, overthink things. Just get it done. Instead of overthinking and overanalyzing, think movement. Think, incremental steps. Stop. Don't think perfection. Think progress, right? Every step you take is moving you forward into where you're trying to go to. Another thing is, I believe a lot of reasons why people are stuck is because people are afraid to fail. And I'll give you an example of something that happened to me last year. And I've overcome that whole feeling of being afraid to fail. because I know, we've all been there. When I first started out and I transitioned from, working in corporate, even though now I provide services in that field. But, transitioning from working for someone to working for yourself it's a scary process. And at times it can be lonely. However, one of the things that I started to embrace really quickly was it's okay to fail. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to figure it out as you go, right? I'm 34 years old. I've never owned a consulting firm before the last 3 years. So I gave myself that grace to say, look, it's okay if I don't make, if I don't know something right now, I can always make it up later on. If I fail, I take lessons learned from that and I move forward, right? Joni, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I'm just listening to you because I'm absorbing as well. But I was thinking sometimes, especially when you're making a huge transition, and, first of all, kudos to you, right? I mean, you're still a very young woman making this transition to be an entrepreneur for yourself. I myself waited till after I retired and did almost a 30-year career in law enforcement that I decided that I wanted to really go after the things that I was passionate about. And, Unstuck can look like a lot of things. Unstuck can be, for some people, right in their day, just, getting unstuck to move in the home, to go, clean the kitchen, or to go and do the work that they know they've been trying to get to all day and they just keep procrastinating and putting it off. But this idea of getting unstuck and the mindset is extremely powerful. Our mind is, we have over 50,000 just on average thoughts a day, and you can magnify those and amplify them depending on the type of person that you are. And so you can get stuck in any one of those thoughts that will keep you from moving forward. And so, some of the things that I try to do to keep me moving forward, and especially in this big step that I took to, have a business and leadership coaching and consulting after a great career, by the way. I mean, it's not like I had a career I hated. I just had a career that I had done good work and I was ready to move on and find my purpose and move in my calling somewhere else. And the thing I got stuck on was my mindset. I was trapped and stuck in the way I used to do things. And I couldn't free my mind to be open to do the new things. And so, I had to go outside of my comfort zone in places that I wasn't familiar with. So I was used to doing things a certain way based on my policing culture, or you can even call it government structure when we work for any kind of city, county, state, or federal agency. And when I allowed myself to be vulnerable and to hear something from other people that made me uncomfortable, but it also challenged me on why I might be stuck, and then I stepped into it, did I really start to open up my mindset. I didn't realize that I had such tunnel vision, and I didn't have a high visual horizon. I didn't even really have a horizon anymore. I was kind of cynical about some things and very skeptical. And then I started doing some mindset work. And one of the things in the mindset piece that really reminded me of who I am and what I'm capable of was something that's called a badass list.
Yes.
It really is about sitting down and really thinking about all the things that you've accomplished, all the things that you are good at, all the things that make you stand in your power. And when you go through these exercises of journaling, being grateful, but doing the exercise to remind yourself of just how bad you are and how awesome you are, you go, you know what? I am. And it helps you to move forward and get some momentum. And wow. I still do that at over 50 years old. And it's powerful. And I do it almost daily because I get stuck in something. Because remember all those thoughts, 50,000 plus.
Wow, Joni.
I have to do that to be intentional.
I mean, Joni, you've dropped so many gems. Like, this is why I love doing this, because you learn from others, right? And it's almost like, as you were talking, I'm just remembering, like, how was it that I was able to, at 34, overcome that fear of starting a consultant firm in a male dominated industry, right? To start with, right? And move forward with it. It was what you just said. I literally made a list. I remember like my first year, I made a list and I said to myself, what is it that you've accomplished, Vanessa? Because one of the things that happens is that imposter syndrome, right? We walk into a room now, we're like, what? But back in the day, like I was, like you said, I was doing pretty well. I mean, I would, but the tables were turned now as an entrepreneur, because now I was trying to gain clients. I was trying to prove myself to these new clients. I mean, they would look at my CV and say, well, the good thing is she's worked with some of the big ones, right? So they kind of trusted me for that a little, but it's like, okay, but you're new to this space. But then I had to remind myself, because what would easily have happened if I had said, well, my last 14 years of career didn't matter, right? And I'm just starting off fresh. I'm this newbie. So no, what I did, you're so right, Joni. What I did was I said to myself, and I made a list. I actually put this in my journal, and I started listing all the things I did. The deals I closed in the past, the problems I solved in the past before I became a consultant. And it helped me walk into rooms and own those rooms, because we can easily just go from that place of, what am I doing here? Like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I so agree with you. And it's in anything, you made another point about being intentional, but it can happen in any area of our lives. It's not just career or business. It can happen with your goals, your dreams, just, getting out of bed. Like, I need to do this laundry. I need to fold some clothes. So I love like where you're coming from, right? I love that. Does anyone else want to just get on stage and let's really like hash this thing out? Because I love everything Joni just said is so me. It's what's helped me overcome the days where I did feel like, what am I doing in these spaces? And it's interesting, because I will get feedback from mentors and even past clients who will say, Vanessa, you're a badass or whatever, right? But then there was still a part of me that's like, I'm new at this, but I had to remind myself, like, no, you're not new at this. You started 14 years ago. Your career didn't start today. You're just, you just pivoted. That's all. So I hear what you're saying. So we summarize that it's, drawing on your past wins, right? Draw on those past wins, draw on those, remember those wins, because it's going to be the wind that kind of pushes you into that direction where you get unstuck. I love it. Joni, you are awesome. We definitely need to connect.
I'm gonna call out somebody right now. Dr. Obed Magni, if you could raise your hand, we'd like to call you to the stage and thank you for being in the room. I just think he's going to have something very powerful.
Yes, I'm seeing. All right, let's add them in. Let's add them in. I love it.
All right. And then, this is a great space to, for me, that I love about Clubhouse and these conversations is, like you said, the value that people bring, but also the vulnerability. This is a space to just really talk about some things with a group of people who want to listen to you, who want to help you with whatever it may be. And there might be a great connection for somebody outside of Clubhouse for you, but it's a great place, especially for people who don't have a lot of people to talk to. And that's what I find is really beautiful about this, to be able to have these really rich conversations and really, get unstuck, right? That's one thing to get unstuck. Get unstuck from not raising your hand, for not, getting involved and wanting to participate and wanting to be brave enough, because sometimes that can be also a place of fear, and it's hard for us to get unstuck. So, step into your courage.
Yes,
we're all here to support you.
All right. So, Dr. Obed or Tiffany, if you have anything to add to the conversation, let's have that chat.
Is this working? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's working.
All right. How you guys doing? Happy Friday. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good morning, wherever everybody's at. I'm sure it's 5 o'clock somewhere in some part of the world. Thank you, Johnny, for volunteering me to speak.
Absolutely. Because you have so much to offer. So I don't want you to sit in silence, because sometimes if you get in a room and it's a lot of women, we need to hear all perspectives, and it's a room for everybody. So thank you so much for being here. And I love it.
Yes, thank you.
So getting unstuck. So there's and I hate to have to use this phrase because it's so cliche, right? I signed up for Clubhouse a week and a half ago because Johnny was like, listen, you need to get on here, and I'm doing this thing in 5 minutes, so hurry up and sign up. And I was kind of like putting it off a little bit. So I signed up, and guess what? I didn't die. So the phrase is, you're not going to die if you try something new. And I know that whenever we all try something that's new, we don't know what's on the other side. And, I think you brought it up, it was brought up earlier, when something's new and it's unfamiliar, it's like, hey, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to step out because I'm going to look dumb or anything like that. In this world today, you could be out there trying something new today. Nobody's going to remember 15 minutes from now. And so you're not gonna have any success. In fact, I would argue, and if anybody can find the answer to this question, I'll give you $1,000. And I mean that literally. Tell me of a great leader. Tell me of any great feats, anything in technology that didn't have bugs or any hiccups in its initial stage. Tell me about any great leader that didn't have to go through some kind of journey where, they had to live with themselves because, there were some trials and tribulations that they had to go through. And, maybe it's that self-reflection that they didn't put too much emphasis on in the beginning because, we all want to make a difference in the world in our own right. And sometimes we can get lost in the weeds, right? We got to remove ourselves from the back and then kind of like take a big picture perspective like, oh, okay, I see what this big picture looks like. What I need to do is rearrange what's going on over here. This corner, maybe add a little color in this corner if you're into painting or whatever that is. And so, like with this Clubhouse thing, I'll be the first one to admit, I'll do push-ups on the sword, I'll jump up over the sword. This is still new to me, and I have ideas of things that I want to do with it. And not that I'm putting it off, I know this doesn't sound like an excuse, because I'm over here trying to get some other things done on the side over here. But I see you guys, some familiar names and some familiar faces in here doing great things with this. And that inspires me because once I jump into this whole thing head first, Johnny and I have already talked about this already, especially in the age of what's going on in policing. We have a responsibility. It's no longer a sitting on the sidelines and let me see if somebody else can help me with this. It's like, hey, if I need to screw it up just so I can get an A for effort, so be it. Because 2 weeks from now, I'll be a lot more proficient at it. And that's where we're going to start making that progress. But that first step, that first piece of inertia of moving in that direction is how it all starts. So, that's just my 2 cents. I was talking to a buddy of mine, I don't mean to belabor the point, and he's 50, I think he's 52 years old, and he's getting ready to do like his 3rd triathlon. And he's over here, trying to get me to, to train. And I'm like, man, you don't lost your mind. Run a marathon? First of all, I can't swim, so the swimming part I'm already disqualified. And then you're going to go ride a bike for I think it's 80 miles or something like that. I'm like, man, I would need 2 weeks to do all that combined, let alone doing it in a day or 2. So that's just my 2 cents. You got to start somewhere. And anybody who's done anything great in this world, regardless of what profession, had to start somewhere. And I can guarantee you it wasn't perfect the first time they tried.
No, it never, thank you so much for that, Dr. Obed. It's never perfect. It's never, it's scary and it's okay. And that goes to the point I said earlier about, I think we have to come to a place where we embrace failure as part of life. For me, I didn't start embracing failure until I started my own company. It was a no in the past. It's like, no, you have to be, everything has to be perfect. I guess it also came from a background of 2 things I think impacted me in that sense where, failure is not an option because number one, I was I was pretty much the first in my family to do a lot of things. So I always had this notion of I needed to be perfect. I needed to, achieve so much. People always kind of get shocked, like you're 34 and you said you had a 14-year career, like how? But that was just, that was my driving force. But that also set me up for this place of, if I failed, I would beat myself up. Like, how could you? Why did you do that? And, all of that. So until I started my, and then I worked in industries where technically, and I say technically, but to your point, Dr. Obed, even with great technology, there's failure, right? So I worked in the aerospace industry, and I still do. And in that space, we always talk about mission critical, right? Mission critical. Working for the aerospace and defense industry, you have things in the air. So, and people's lives are at stake. So there's always this mission critical, we can't mess it up, kind of thing. So I came from that background of everything it has to work out. It has to, we have to go through a proofing. You got to, get the engineers to sign off. So starting my own consultant firm, it was a wake up, like, it took some time for me to get to that place of, Vanessa, it's okay. It's okay to fail, pick yourself back up and do better. It's okay to come on Clubhouse and not be, I was in a room early and someone was like, well, people are going to be exposed because it's going to show what they know and what they don't know. But to me, I was like, that's not the point of coming on Clubhouse. If anything, coming onto Clubhouse has really helped me with my coming out of my shell of being I always say a former introvert. Owning your own business, you have to force yourself to become an extrovert, right? So it's forced me to come out of my shell. I never would have dreamt in years that I talked to people I never knew. I never, we didn't have a company tying us together. So that kind of, that feeling of, okay, it's okay to fail. We have to come to that place where we normalize it. And to your point, Dr. Obed, everyone who has created something great, even the Clubhouse that we're on right now, I'm sure there were times where they failed it trying to put it together. And it's okay to, if we embrace that, like I'm now embracing it in my 30s, right? I grew up all my life saying I have to be this perfect person. And guess what? I didn't achieve it. Of course not. But then when I started embracing the idea that, look, it's okay to fail and just move forward, I believe you gain so much more. And there's more movement. There's more, to be gained there. So anyone else want to speak? We have Tiffany, and then let's see, Dr. Irene on.
Dr. Irene.
So welcome to the stage.
Hi, thank you guys for inviting me to speak. So I am new to Clubhouse and just starting to branch out in terms of making connections and speaking and listening and learning. And this topic really resonates with me. And I can say personally for me, one of the areas when I think of being stuck is this, whether it comes externally from family or peers or internally within yourself for responsibilities, this battle between what you think you should be doing and how you think you should be handling things versus what truly serves you. And I know that's a question I've had to reflect back on multiple times, looking at and thinking about, okay, am I doing this because this is the quote unquote societal path that has been laid before me? Or am I doing this because it serves my passion, my purpose, my person, my profession? Like, why am I doing it? And I think an area that a lot of people can get stuck in is find themselves up against a wall because they're not branching out into what serves them, but they're still staying with, well, I need to be doing this, or this is a traditional path for how I provide for my family or for how I pursue job opportunities. I know personally, and I've talked to a few people about this concept of everything has to be a linear progression. You got to start at A and work your way through the alphabet before you get to Z. And as you grow and you take chances and you take risk and you step out of that comfort zone, you start to learn very quickly, like, oh, hey, it's not all linear. It is possible to just do leaps and bounds or have an untraditional or unanticipated path. And even though we all kind of know that inherently, I think often we don't step out in that boldness and explore that. We know it's not necessarily an A to Z, but the concept of it applying to us isn't the same as the concept we think or have with it applying to others. And so I know personally for me, that has been a challenge, not even feeling like it's a fear-based hesitancy, but like, I've got a little one at home. I've got a husband, and the decisions I made as a single, unmarried, non-parent were very different from the decisions I've made with my family. And sometimes we feel like we can't make some of those, or I'll speak for myself. There have been times I've had to readjust my mindset and realize that I can still be everything I need to be for my family. But first and foremost, I have to be what I need to be for me so that I can fulfill that role and be everything that I want and need to be for them. And so I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on kind of how they've experienced that or worked with that. But I know that for me and folks that I've talked to, that is a very common way to get stuck is, kind of that rut of self-induced obligation in how you proceed or how you strategize with your path forward.
Tiffany, I just want to say you touched it. All kind of nerves in me. So thank you.
Yes.
For that, because yes, it's not just gender-based, but also, like you said, it's this family dynamic and the responsibility that we take on, that maybe it just happens organically, or it is kind of pressed upon you, or maybe that was modeled to us from childhood, or any number of things. But what I found a lot of times is I created that myself.
Yes.
I created it myself, and then you get kind of indoctrinated in that, and it's what you continue to do, and it's hard for you to break out of something that becomes a pattern of behavior. And so, like you're talking about your husband and your young child, and you're doing these new things, and I just find like it's a really powerful but simple thing. It's just really communication and the conversation and the way we talk to our support circles in order to have them hear us, but for us to hear them, right? So we can create better outcomes for everybody, that's healthy for everybody, that supports you, supports me in the business ventures or things we want to do, but also still allows us to be loving and caring and kind providers, so we can feel like mothers and wives and sisters and all the things we want to all the people, and we don't have to carry around the guilt of our decisions. And that helps us to get unstuck if we can, lift the weight of what we sometimes will, or at least I found for myself, will place on myself. And then when you actually share it, it wasn't like that at all, but I just felt dutiful to do certain things or to, function in a certain way. So what you said was very powerful to me. It touched a lot of nerves, and it might have for some other folks here on stage, maybe Dr. Irene, I'm not sure.
Thanks, Johnny. And thank you, Tiffany. That resonated so much with me as well. Vanessa, what you said, Dr. Obed, it's, oh my goodness. Dr. Ilya and I interviewed Dr. Ilya for my podcast on self-healing today, and we were having the most beautiful conversation that kind of piggybacked, Johnny, on a conversation that started last week in a room that we were in on the idea of masculine versus feminine. And Dr. Ilya, and I hope you'll bring him up as a speaker, talked about, I won't go into it in great detail, the branding that we are given from birth. And that can be branding good or negative.
Wow.
And where we took it was, and I referenced back, and Dr. Obed, you were on that call as well, this idea of masculine versus feminine. And the expectations that the woman and female is supposed to be submissive and is the nurturer and the connector and is supposed to soothe the waters and make sure everything is hunky-dilly-dory for everyone else, and the man is supposed to be strong and silent and tough and take it like a man and not get into God forbid he cries. And I prefer to look at it as our having the balance between our yin and yang. coming from my acupuncture background. And the idea that we need them in balance and we need both. And when we put the term masculine and feminine to it, it triggers a whole bunch of, like a whole whack of emotional responses, right? Like hot buttons. And so I prefer the term yin and yang, the moon, the sun. Sometimes we need to be introspective. Sometimes we need to shine like the sun. Sometimes we need to follow and be the follower. Sometimes we need to be the leader. And there is no right or wrong. It's finding that balance within us and knowing that we are all meant to be a perfect balance of both sides. And when one gets out of whack, then we suffer physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, and yet I just had to say that because, yes, thank you. I just looked down now and saw that Dr. Ilya was on the stage as well.
You know, what you're actually saying, Dr. Irene, really is also a part of being unstuck, right? Because it is, you know, the way, like you said, the way that we can see our position in life sometimes can create something for us to keep us stuck in mindset, stuck physically. But if we have this understanding and we have this connection and we can move past those things, we really can have some transformative experiences in our life. And so it's a very powerful conversation. It's one that's not had very often when we talk about the differences between men and women and the expectations and the perceptions, because it can create sensitivities, we can get defensive. But relationships are a place that we get stuck all the time in. And we know that those can go from extreme of domestic violence to extreme of, you know, bliss, right? But I think those are all relative to getting unstuck. So it wasn't that far of a tangent. But
I'm glad.
I love it. I love it. And Dr. Ilya, you're the happiness doctor.
So let's reset the room for those who are just joining us, and then we'll have Dr. Ilya speak with us. So if you're just joining the room, this topic is about getting unstuck. We started it on Monday, and I'm so excited to have in the room with me some new faces that I'm so looking forward to, you know, connecting with even after this. And the conversation has just been phenomenal. We started off talking about, you know, getting unstuck starts in your mind. And it's interesting, right? That was the first thing I said. And it's interesting that every moderator or anyone who's on the stage right now speaking has touched on pretty much how there are different facets of our minds, right? It's either, you know, from birth and family or societal pressures. These are all the different factors that I believe speaks to us, right? Speaks to us, and it's a matter of what voice are you allowing to speak to you, right? I because I have the type of personality I have, and I think others may be different, and that's fine. The voices that speak to me the most, it's usually my voice. But then as you guys were talking, I'm like, yes, a lot of that came from those formative years, right? Where, as I said earlier, I'm the first of a lot in my family. So expectations were set. Like, you went to college, you bought a home, you worked for a big company. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, you make more, like, financially, you're more well off. So there was always these expectations. And what happened for me, and now I'm realizing as I'm talking to you guys who are the experts, for me, when I transitioned from having a corporate job and earning so much to, you know what, I think I want to go start my own business. There was this whole feeling of, what if I fail my family? You know, so I would really like to hear, but I quickly overcame that notion because my family quickly came on board and said, you've always been brilliant at anything you do. It doesn't matter if you're making a third of what you used to make, we'll support you. I think we get stuck in that mindset that, you know, perhaps there's these, you know, obligations, like Tiffany had said, that we then put ourselves in this rut, right? For me, it was the opposite. My family was like, I mean, yeah, this is a totally different world for us, but we'll support you. We'll, you know, my husband goes out, he buys cameras, he buys lighting, you know, he'll help me with my business card. My mom will help, you know, watch the kids. So it's it's a matter of you getting, I think it's still you getting out of your own way and communicating what your needs are so that you get unstuck. So Dr. Elias, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, what a wonderful discussion. And I just happened to pick up my phone and I saw Dr. Irene there and I saw Getting Unstuck Part 2. And I'm like, I need to jump in here even for a few minutes just to listen. So thank you for having me. Dr. Irene, I was supposed to do an interview with her for 30 minutes. We went for a full hour and there's going to be part 2 and 3. So I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Here's my feelings about Getting Unstuck are the following. There's another voice that maybe has not been talked about, which is our intuition or our inner wisdom, or some people might say that still small voice, or the connection to divinity, or the Holy Spirit, whatever you call that voice, honor it, listen to it, get quiet. And so that's part 1. Part 2 is be unafraid, and specifically to women. The world right now is going a huge transformation. I'm talking like tectonic plates, major transformation. In 2020 was the great pause. Like some giant finger from the sky came down upon humanity and pressed the pause button for us to ponder, to think, to consider, to reevaluate our lives and the lives of our loved ones and what's really important and what matters. As a result of that, we need the feminine power. It's not coincidental that the countries that did well during the pandemic were led by women leaders. That is not a coincidence. And we need women to speak their voice, but to do it from a place of love. So to me, that's the trifecta. Listen to your intuition, listen to your inner wisdom, be unafraid to speak your truth, but to do it from a place of a heart full of love, not from anger, not from resentment, not from anything like that. And if you do those 3 things, that's a very powerful combination that is a way to live life. And certainly you'll be unstuck by doing that, and do it consistently. There are wonderful things happening in this world. You just wait and see. I'm just watch and see what happens in the next few months. There are so many good people that are coming together in a forum like the Clubhouse, or in a forum like you have here in Getting Unstuck, that want to have the same thing, that want to make a difference in this world and to help one another. Good men who love and respect and honor women, and great women, powerful women. The one thing that I shared with Dr. Irene was, I'm Greek. So I grew up in a classic Greek home where men are men and women are women. And I was a sensitive young man and a boy. And when I was 15 years old, something happened. I remember I was crying, and my dad says to me, "You're too sensitive." And it pierced me to my core. Wow. And the message, of course, that I got was, boys don't cry, right? And I covered up my heart, and I covered up the feminine aspect of my personality for a good decade until I rediscovered, because my biggest strength lies there. I got it from my mom. My mom was a source of love until she passed away. And I have lived in honor of her, and I've lived my life happy and loving because of her. So I will never deny that feminine side of myself. It's the best part of me, actually, in some ways.
Wow. So can I just be honest? Like, I feel like I set up this room, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to provide value. I'm going to talk about this and that. But you know what? Being an open-minded person, I'm absorbing everything that's being said. I almost feel like this room was set up just so I could hear you guys just pour into me. I don't know about the rest of you listening, but from Joni to Tiffany to Dr. Obed to Dr. Irene to Dr. Elia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just blown away in the sense that all your perspectives are coming together as like a whole. If you think about it, right, your mindset, like, yes, that's where it starts, but what feeds it? There's intuition. Oh my goodness, Dr. Elias, I love that. Your intuition, your natural intuition. Perhaps if we just learn to just trust that intuition, right, we wouldn't be so afraid to fail. If you just, hey, my intuition says, try out this, try out starting this company, or write this book, or, take this trip, whatever it is your intuition is telling you. And I love how you put it in perspective of the time and the age we're living now. I too had what Dr. Obed said about the whole Clubhouse. Initially, I was like, why would I add another social media to, the already like long list of social media? There's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, what is all this? But then quickly, there was Dr. Ilias. It was an intuition. I saw it in December and I ignored it, but my intuition kept pushing me and saying, Vanessa, you need to be, I kept hearing this voice say, you need to be in Clubhouse. And I kept saying, no, no, no. But then in this month, like 2 weeks ago, I finally said, fine, intuition, you win. Let's find out what this Clubhouse is. And if it's not worth it, I will jump off. And I've not regretted joining. I mean, it's been so phenomenal. I get to meet people like Joni, Tiffany, Obed, Dr. Irene, Dr. Ilias. I mean, I'm just so excited. And now we're going to also have Cone. Is that how you say your name?
Close enough.
What is it? Con. Okay, so Con. So we're going to have Con with us now. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. This is so amazing.
Well, I find it fascinating. There's a couple of threads, and forgive me, I jumped in kind of midstream. So, but I want to piggyback a little bit on my good friend Dr. Ilias' points about the awareness piece. And I think that's, if we want to listen to our intuition, I think there's a step right before that. It says, I have to understand that I am stuck. There's a lot of people that go through life and wonder why things aren't going their way, or why can't they do X, Y, or Z, and don't realize that they are themselves in the wrong way. They are stuck based on their tapes that they play and keep replaying in their head. And for many of us, we operate with those archetypes, with those tapes, and never realize that it's in our power, it's in our hands to make that difference and to make that switch, to choose to play a different track. And that is where the awareness piece comes in, and making that acknowledgement that, you know what, I can't continue to operate. I choose to be different. Again, knowing Dr. Ilias' work and everything, if he talks about the concept of how to brand yourself, you realize very, very quickly that we all have a title, a brand, or a way that we see ourselves. And I'm not talking about the fashionable personal branding thing that's big right now. I'm talking about the name, the label, the view that we have of ourselves. He is the happiness doctor. And that's a brand that he's worn all of his life. And in many ways, we all walk around with a label. And whether it's a networking event that we have a sticker on, or we just go through life, we don't realize it, but we wear that brand, that badge, right, on our chest or even on our forehead half the time. And it's realizing that, you know what, I like or I don't like that brand. I like or I don't like that title. That helps us make that first move to get unstuck, because you're acknowledging that you're either in a place where you want to be, or you're in a place where you don't want to be. And then you have a choice.
Wow. So I love what you said, Khan, because you weren't in my notes, but my notes, and one of the points I said, make a list of what's holding you back, right? Identify resources to help you overcome each of those areas of shortfall, I guess. So on point, because it starts with first acknowledgement, right? You have to acknowledge that you're stuck. If you don't acknowledge that you're stuck, you're going to keep either moving in the wrong direction, or, which is still being stuck. You're in the wrong place. Or you'll just, there will be no movement. So first acknowledge, and I love that. First acknowledge that you are stuck. Acknowledge that you need help, right? Once you make that list of, hey, these are the things that are holding me back. What can I do to overcome them? And I made a list of like some things you could do. It could come in a form of collaboration, outsourcing, coaching, mentoring. It could even be, now that I'm thinking about it, as we're talking about, the top different, everyone's input, even therapy. Maybe I need to go for, therapy. If it's, a skill gap issue, go and learn that skill if it's what's needed. So it first starts with you being intentional about being unstuck. Because I don't know about the rest of you, I've coached people who, and I get so passionate about it. I'm like, I want to help other women achieve their dreams. I've been able to overcome my fears. So let's help other women do that too. But the first thing I met the first 3 years was, it's, you want to help people, you want to get them unstuck and get them moving in the right direction. but it does start with that intentionality. That person has to want to be unstuck, right? There's that first acknowledgement, and then, yes, I want to move from this point A to B. And if that person's not willing or not ready, I mean, no amount of coaching, honestly, will even push that person into what they need to be in. So great points, great points. Anyone want to add to that?
I wanted to say, oh, go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
Oh no, I bow to you because
No.
Oh, I am getting so much from you, and I am just loving that you showed up here, and I'm so grateful for that. So yes, please.
I just want to say that, you know, we've all been branded typically early on in our lives, in our life, and I won't bore you with the details of how I became, you know, I got the happiness brand as a baby growing up, but it's a cute story. But there are other positive brands. For example, you know, the adorable one, the cute one, the kind one, the loving one, the princess, the athletic, the smart, you know. And if you've been branded with a positive brand, count your blessings, because it's a wonderful gift, and you've lived a good life as a result of that. However, having worked first as a clinical psychologist and then in the corporate world for the last 30 years, my experience is that most people's brands haven't been that fortunate. And without going into all of them, I will tell you the top three, specifically and especially for women. And you'd be like, how could somebody say it like that? Believe me, I work with thousands of people. You know what the worst top three are? The most common, I should say? The stupid one, the fat one, and the ugly one. So, and those are very, very, very powerful. So a few years ago, I'm giving a talk at a women's conference. There's 500 women and me, and I'm sharing the positive and negative brands and the impact that they have on our happiness and self-esteem and self-worth. And out of the corner of my eye, this lady in her 70s stands up. This was in the South. This was in North Carolina, and starts waving her arms. And kind of threw me off from my game, right? I'm usually there to give a talk, give my keynote, and I couldn't ignore her. So I stopped and I turned over and I said, "Yes, ma'am. What would you like?" Because I had encouraged the audience. I said, "If you don't like your negative brand, empower yourself. Today's the day to change your brand." So this lady looks and discloses in front of 500 strangers and me that her brand for 70 plus years was, I was the stupid, ugly, fat one, and a couple of F-bombs on top of that. And the room got silent. You could hear a pin drop. I was shocked. I don't think I would ever be that vulnerable in front of 500 people. So she threw me off, and I looked at her, and she goes, "You know, after listening to you, Dr. Elia, I want to change my brand." And I'm like, "Okay, ma'am." And I said, well, what would you like your brand to be? And her name was Leah, by the way. She goes, "From now on, I want to be known as Princess Leah." And I bowed to her. I bow to your majesty. And people cracked up and they started laughing. And this very tense moment became a very lighthearted moment. And I share this story why? Because if a woman in her 70s can change her brand, then anybody else can do it if they don't like it. And today, do not procrastinate your happiness. Today is the day to change your brand.
Wow.
That's
I'm gonna drop the virtual mic on you. Wow.
I know.
Because I was just gonna say, I felt like you were speaking to me in that 70-year-old woman, Leah, because it took me a lot of years to get past a lot of things on how I was raised. So I'm biracial, and coming up, we would live in neighborhoods or different cities or towns, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a year. And so as you're a child and you're coming up and you're 8 or 9, 10 years old, you still just want to have friends. And we would live in very rural white parts of Texas. And I was bullied and I was picked on and I was called, and I was a big girl. So I was 5'10" by the time I was like 10 or 11. And I wasn't stupid though. I was called fat. I was called ugly. Look at your hair. What's wrong with your face? Look at your nose. Who are you? I mean, for like years, I endured this most of the time when we moved, until I got to an age where, I started, redoing my hair, whatever. But this piece of the brand part is in your spirit. It's in your heart. It doesn't matter externally what you do to try to camouflage what you think will help you to fit in. But this part that you just shared for me, it just really touched me because it's so powerful, because I know we have some young people who are down in our audience who are listening, that, finding your positive brand right now and saying it's okay to get rid of the negative brand. It will empower you. It will catapult you. It will unstick you. And it will allow yourself to be free from some of these labels that people place on you. And then we carry it around. We carry it around like shackles. And we become ashamed and embarrassed. And I just want to say it's extremely powerful what you just said, Dr. Ilya, and what you do for women and just for people in general. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. And you and I have had this discussion. I consider you a hero, actually, in what you went through. And that you just find your voice, be unafraid, and it comes from a place of love. You do those things as you listen to your intuition or to your higher self, and the sky's the limit. This is true for everyone on this call.
Absolutely. For those who are just joining us, just to reset the room, and I don't think we'll be much longer. However, I mean, this conversation is so powerful, and it's going in the direction. It's going in a different direction than I initially thought, but in a very good way. However, one of my notes, and it was a mental note, I didn't even write it down, but it seemed as if the kind of conversations that we're going to be talked about tonight really is going to lend itself to this. So I lost a mentor, a business mentor, who I had just come in relationship with in 2020. Wonderful man, very given. He will get the shirt off his back and just, would pour into you, and when you find people like that, it's hard, right? We all know that. People who are just willing to pour into you. So I met him in 2020, and in the midst of a pandemic, and he's like, "Look, I want to bring you onto one of my shows. I want you to talk, and I want you to, share with people what you do, how you problem solve, and your consultant, and then also your social enterprise meant for her." And I mentally said yes, and I said yes verbally, but mentally I was like, okay, I need to check all these boxes first before I go on his show. Well, unfortunately, he passed away. He passed away in December. I believe the last time we spoke was like July, August time. So here I was, right, in my own mental arrogance that, time is waiting for me. I decided, hey, when I cross all these dots and, dot all these I's and cross all these T's, I will get back to him, so that I'm now pretty much like Dr. Ilyas was saying about the brand and piece, right? So I was like, okay, I don't have all these components yet to go on this man's show. If I had just looked within the same way I did when I started consulting, where I made a list of, hey, you've done this before, you could do it again, right? It's not like you have the experience. If I had done that, I probably would have been unafraid and just moved forward, right? Maybe if I had done that. So I didn't. He ended up passing away. And I remember I found out at midnight, and I was scrolling through my phone, and I just kept saying to myself, I will never get the opportunity to go on his show. He's dead. He's gone. I know this is a morbid way to bring this up, but as Dr. Ilyas was speaking, I was thinking about how we're always so afraid because we feel it goes back to this, our personal brand, that we haven't checked off something because society or whomever says you haven't done this yet. And for me, at the end of 2020, I made a decision. And I believe that's probably why I'm even holding this room today. I made a conscious decision that no more will I wait for perfection. No more will I wait to cross whatever, dot all the I's and cross every T's to do my dreams. If it's a dream to host a clubhouse like this, I mean, I never in my wildest dream would even expect to be in a room with the kind of people that are on the stage today. So, I mean, what does that say? At the end of the day, I came out of that experience of losing that mentor. And I started to say to myself, this might sound funny to some, but what has started to push me in 2021 to even dare to even like really do some crazy things this year is I started to think of the fact that if I'm 6 feet under the ground, will it matter? Because now my mentor, one of my business mentors was gone. I said, no longer can he, he's not participating. And he would have been, oh my goodness, he would have been on Clubhouse like day one. Because that's just his personality. He was that fearless type. So I started to think to myself, all the great things he did, all the great things he laid. I mean, it's his legacy goes on. But I started to think about the missed opportunities I had not taken on because I was waiting to get this, perfect brand, which really, and then it's funny because some people see me and they say, oh my goodness, I think you're so successful. And I'm still trying to cross dots, dot some I's and cross some T's. So, wow. I mean, to this evening has just been an eye opener. If anyone's listening, whatever those dreams are, those crazy dreams that you've held on, you've just, you just think I'm not ready, or society wise, I don't fit the mold. This is your time to really just start to do that inner work. Do that inner work and move forward. Stop being stuck. Get out of your own way. I said that earlier when we opened up. Get out of your own way, because usually it's us, right? And the examples we've gotten tonight, yes, people have said things in the past, or maybe growing up, or just in different experiences you've had in the workplace, and it's put you in a place where you're stuck. Think about it. When it's all said and done, will those people's voices matter? I think that's what's getting me unstuck, honestly, in some areas.
Well, I will tell you, they don't matter. They do not matter to me. The people that I love and I care about, that's what matters to me. And those are the relationships that I would have to have the conversations when they start to invade my new branding, my place that I've given my positive brand to. That we need to have a conversation if they're affecting that and making it make me feel negative in some way. But the rest of them, they can kick rocks.
Eggs. Can we all get an amen for that? I mean, it took me 34 years to get to this point. I'm like, who cares? That's really it. Who cares what they think?
If we worry too much about what everybody thinks, everybody's a critic now, right? With social media, everybody has an opportunity to be a critic.
To criticize,
yeah. They get to go hide, and they never have to actually, face the person that they're accusing or who they're trying to call out or whatever.
Exactly.
And I don't have time for that. I'm too grown for that. So no, but
I love it.
We have Josie on the stage. I wasn't sure.
Yes, Josie, please.
And I have to depart, unfortunately. I love this conversation. I wish I had jumped in earlier. My sweetheart of a wife actually got diagnosed with COVID yesterday. So life is messy in the midst of all these great things that are happening. Life is not perfect.
And prayers are with you and her.
Thank you. And I saw a text that said needed to go upstairs. So I'm going to bow out quietly, but
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've made such an impact in my life in a short time. Wow.
Thank you, Vanessa.
All right, Josie, what are we saying it correctly? If you want to unmute okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for including me. And I just had something brief, and that was, as you were, well, first of all, wow, what a powerful, rich conversation. I just feel really lucky to have dropped in. Thanks, Joni, for looping me in. And my thought was that, as you were starting to go through that list, just reflecting on at least the pieces that I had heard since I jumped in into the room, that you're talking about the role of collaboration and coaching and the intentionality, and then Ilya brought in the role of intuition. And the only thing I would add is just that with that move of moving into the intuition and the idea of the personal branding and living into that, that the other way to get out of cognition is through the body and physicality. And I think that particularly in the world where we're moving into, with the virtual space being so much part of our new normal, that just remembering the role of our physical body in helping us to get unstuck. That's all I had.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure if you were going to jump on it, Vanessa. No, thank you, Josie. I mean, all those aspects play a complete. So if we want to really consider ourselves 360, we have to look at everything, right? And sometimes we forget that. It's almost like when you start a diet, you think that there's only a couple of things you need to do in order for yourself to say your goal is to lose weight. When in actuality, some people need a whole lifestyle change, right? And so making sure that we are really assessing and considering the fullness of ourselves and all that it takes for us to be able to get unstuck. So, thank you for sharing and opening the lens and that lane of that consideration as well.
And absolutely. I love that. Knowing it's all about knowing yourself, knowing what you're, capable of, knowing your environment, your space, even your body, right? What can you take and what can't you take, and what your limits are, and where you're strong at, where you're weak at. I mean, that all put together, and how you think, how you process things, and what voices are speaking to you. I think when you have that holistic view, it helps you quickly understand, okay, let me be intentional about my getting unstuck. I love it. I totally love it. I'm just blown away with the amount of gems and as people always say, it sounds, I don't really use that word gems, but I love everything that has been given to us to, this evening, this night. I want everyone to just I want to go back and just reflect on this and take some of it with me and use it to just for my next steps. It's like, for that next level. I believe that every level you go through, right, as you progress as a person, there's always a work to be done. For some of the things that I'm working on now, I need to go back and kind of ask myself some questions like, who's speaking to you, Vanessa? Whose voices are you hearing? And to Joni, your point, are they the voices that matter? I've moved from the space of like, being really caring about what a lot of people think, but still there's that, okay, who's speaking? Who else is speaking? And do I even have the right people? That's another angle, right? It's maybe there's some new voices I need to be listening to. Like tonight, I've met some amazing, and I hope everyone in the audience feels the same way, amazing persons on this stage that now I'm like, I want to hear more. Like, what do they have to say? Perhaps in some of the areas I'm stuck in, you guys can help me overcome some of those areas of my life, and really be all I can be. So
That's what the beauty of this whole creating new relationships and friendships is about. Is, to me, it's the authentic connection. So I know there's a lot of different hustles going on Clubhouse for money making and advancement and a lot of those things, which is great. But really, people right now, we are experiencing a trauma in the world with the pandemic, along with social unrest. And for us in the United States, we've had a change of power at the highest level. And people are experiencing trauma. So the connection is huge. You can't see your friends and people like you used to. And so just because we can't see each other, this Clubhouse allows this social engagement, which helps us to get unstuck from some of those things that have happened because we've been isolated and, pulled away from our normal. And so it's very powerful. And, Vanessa, if it's okay with you, I just want to make sure that, anybody that's in the audience, if you have a question or you want to have a share,
absolutely,
before we step out of the room, please raise your hand and we'll bring you up. It doesn't have to be long. And again, it's a small room, so it shouldn't be too intimidating, but, we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to contribute at all.
I just want to stop 1 second and jump in here and say thank you, ladies, and Dr. Ovid for our room and bringing this conversation to the forefront. I learned stuff. I had resonated with me as well. And I'm going to hop off and spend the evening with my family as well. Thank you so much.
Yes. Enjoy your weekend, Dr. Irene.
Thank you, Dr. Irene.
You too.
All right. Joni, perfect. If anyone from the audience has anything they want to add or they have a question, this would be the time. If not, we are going to wrap it up. I believe value has been given by so many. Initially, it was just myself, but here we now had almost 4 to 5 different, SMEs from different areas that really were able to give us some insight on how to get unstuck. So thank you so much, everyone. I think that's it. That's it for today. All right. Take care. Bye.
Everyone take care. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. Thank you all for joining. All right. Take care. All right. That's it for today. Take care.